Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to share my updated 2024 roster projection for the Pittsburgh Steelers after the first 2 weeks of Steelers training camp practice. There's been some very pleasant surprises at camp this year, so I had to make some changes to my original roster projection. Today I'll be breaking down my entire roster projection today, but before we get into it, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you are pumped as we are for this year here at Steelers Talk, man. This is going to be a wonderful season here on the channel. Hopefully the Steelers can put it together and win a playoff game for the first time in a very, very long time. Now we get to some guys that will not be included on this roster projection. Cameron Sutton because of his suspension, and Cole Holcomb, the linebacker, because of a report we got from Jerry Dulac earlier this week that he's likely not going to be ready to start the season. So I'm going with the assumption that these two guys will not be on the roster. So with that being said, let's get into it with the quarterbacks. No changes from my previous one. Russell Wilson, I think, will be the week 1 starter. Justin Fields, I think will do enough to put the pressure on Russ heading into the year, but he won't officially have the job week 1. Then Kyle Allen, really good third quarterback option, will make the team as well. Then we get to the running backs. I think they only carry 3, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, and Cordero Patterson, who will handle kickoff return duties. So I think that, there's some decent backup running backs on this roster right now. Maybe one of them sneaks in on the roster, but for now, I'll just project 3 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we get to the wide receivers. I have them carrying 6. George Pickens, Calvin Austin III, Van Jefferson, Roman Wilson coming off of that injury, Scotty Miller, and Quez Watkins. I think, it's very possible, guys, that there's a player not on the Steelers right now that's a wide receiver that will be on this roster week 1. Now, whether that's Brandon Ayuk, whether that's Michael Thomas, whether that's somebody else, it's definitely a possibility the Steelers add to this room and one of these players ends up going outside and gets cut. But for now, I think you got to take as many dart throws as you can at this position, so I'll have them hang on to 6. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Is there a wide receiver not on the current roster that will make this team? Let me know down there in the comments section with a yes or a no for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me a yes or a no. We get to the tight ends. I think they'll carry 4. Pat Freiermuth, Connor Hayward, who's going to play quite a bit at fullback this year, it sounds like. Darnell Washington. And then Michael Pruitt, who is a big Arthur Smith guy. All right, Smith loves him some Michael Pruitt. I feel pretty good that he's going to end up making this team. Interior offensive linemen, I have them carrying 6. Isaac Seumalo, James Daniels, and I think Nate Herbig will actually be the week 1 starting center. I have changed my mind on that after the first 2 weeks of practice. Herbig, I do think, is playing slightly better than Zach Frazier, but I think Frazier will take over at some point this season. Mason McCormick will be a backup depth piece, and same thing with Spencer Anderson. He can play tackle if needed, and he can play inside. I think that versatility gets him on the team. Then at offensive tackle, I got Dan Moore Jr., Broderick Jones, Troy Fautano, and I do think Dylan Cook will be one of the last bubble players to make the roster here because I think it's a possibility that when Fautanu wins the starting right tackle job, Dan Moore Jr. will want to be traded. In that scenario, they're going to want to have another offensive tackle on the roster just in case that happens, and that man would be Dylan Cook as a swing tackle. Now, coming up next here on Steelers Talk, I got the defensive roster projection coming up here in just a second. But before I get to the defense today, I want to have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat right on the app, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets to whatever event that you choose. Now, whether you guys want to go to PNC Park to go watch the Pirates play, or whether you want to go see the Steelers play in the preseason, watch Justin Fields, Game Time's got you covered. And it's not just sports, guys. You can go out and you can go and get tickets to concert festivals, comedy shows, theater performances. Game Time's got everything on their app right now. And what I love about Game Time is they get the lowest price guarantee, all-in pricing, so you don't get slapped with crazy fees at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to the event. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. That's one word, all caps, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Then the interior of the defensive line, I think they carry 6 of them this year. Cam Hayward, Keanu Benson, and Larry Ogunjobi will be your starters. Montrevious Adams has had a very nice camp, actually. as a backup nose tackle. I think that he's a very, very valuable player to have as a rotation player. DeMarvin Leal has played really well, actually, so far in camp, and I think that he's going to win that spot. And then Dean Lowry. They're keeping him on the roster despite having still injury issues, which tells me that they have a plan for him this season. I do think Lowry ends up making it. Also, watch out for Isaiah Loudermilk to potentially make the roster as well. He was my first player off the roster. Then we get to the edge rushers here. We just added Marcus Golden here, and I do think he'll make the roster over Kyron Johnson and Jeremiah Moon. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig, of course, round out the rest of the outside linebackers on this team. Then we get to the inside linebackers, and another player that this team has added recently is Tyler Metakevich, who I think will make the team because of his experience and his expertise on kickoffs. And I think that Mike Tomlin is taking this new rule change extremely seriously. I think Metakevich will be a very important piece to that, along with Miles Killebrew, who we'll get to in a second. But I do think Peyton Wilson, Landon Roberts, and Patrick Queen will be the other inside linebackers, and we'll see what happens once Cole Holcomb is good to go. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm going to get to the rest of my projection here in just a second. But if you're enjoying yourself here, we got videos like this every single day for free here on YouTube. So if you want to click that subscribe button and join our family, we got breaking news coverage whenever it hits. We got weekly live shows, including watch parties for every single Steelers game, preseason, regular season, and hopefully postseason this year. And it's all 100% free for you guys to enjoy. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now and join our family. We get to the safeties in the secondary here. I'm going to have them carrying 4. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, DeMonte KZ, and then Miles Killebrew will once again be probably a special teams captain and a special teams ace on all those various special teams duties that he has thrived in for years. Then with the cornerback position, I have them carrying 6 guys heading into the year. Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Beanie Bishop Jr., I think will be your week 1 starters. Darius Rush will be the first outside corner off the bench. Graylin Arnold, I think, will be another guy that makes this team as a special teams contributor and backup slot corner option. And then Corey Trice Jr. will be the dime option and kind of be like that dime safety type player. They've been playing him there in practices. So hopefully Corey Trice Jr. can show enough to make the roster this year. Then we get to the special teams here. I'm going to go with Chris Boswell, the kicker, obviously Cam Johnson, the punter, and then Christian Kuntz, the long snapper. This is why you watch the video, guys, to see which special teamers is going to be making the team. But you got to include them in a roster projection, right? So here we go, guys. That was my entire roster projection. Here would be my practice squad priorities if I were the Pittsburgh Steelers. You guys will notice that there's a bunch of different positions here. Ryan Watts, Thomas Graham Jr., Anthony Averett, all secondary players that could potentially be practice squad priorities here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mark Robinson, Logan Lee, Kyron Johnson, Jeremiah Moon, all guys that are kind of bubble players, but I think still provide the team some value if you can keep them on your practice squad this year. So that's my roster projection. That's my updated one. I might do another one before the final cuts, but I guess we'll see how I'm feeling at that point. But make sure you guys type "Here we go" down there in the comments section if you are a real one and made it to the end of today's program.